Stampers. My name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'd like to show you how I made this card. This card is using a technique that's called black ice, and I'm going to bring it a little bit closer to the camera here so you can get an idea about it. This technique was invented by a woman by the name of Melissa Kerman, and Melissa's, I think, in North Carolina or Virginia. I can't remember which. In any case, I love the story. She and her 88-year-old mother came up with this technique. I just love it. And so I'm going to show you how I made this particular card. Now, I've seen it done in a couple of different ways, and I'll probably be back with some, maybe some uses with other colors of foil and other images. I've seen some stuff done that's absolutely stunningly beautiful. So to make this one, we need a basic black card base here, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. A piece that is 5 1/4 by 4 for the inside. A piece that is 5 1/4 by 4 for the first layer on the outside. And then we need a couple of pieces for layering here. Let me make sure I've got these things cut right. I think I do. Okay, so this first black piece is 3.5 by 4 1/4. Then this next piece of white is 3 1/4 by 4. And then this little piece here is gold foil, or silver foil, pardon me. It's 3 by 3 1/4. And then I'm using some of our pretty black shimmer ribbon here along the bottom. And those are the pieces that we need to make our card. So let's just get started, and I'll show you how to put this together. Now, on this first piece of gray that is going to be our background piece, we need some scratch paper here, and in fact I'm going to bring kind of a large piece of scratch paper here because this is kind of a messy process. And the first thing we're going to do is use our basic black archival ink, and we're going to add a little dab of snail to the back of that card and anchor it to our scratch paper so that it doesn't move around. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this edge of our ink pad, and we are just going to draw it across the face of this card. And then I'm going to come over on this side and do the same thing, draw it across. And you'll notice that as I do this, I get kind of a dark edge on this one side, which is exactly what I want to do. And in fact, I'm going to turn it around and do that so we get that on the other side as well. And there we go. And what we want is just something that has a little texture to it, and I think that has plenty. Now we're going to take this piece and we're going to set it aside, and we're going to work on this little metal foil piece. Once you get going, this card is actually pretty fast. Let's see, I'm going to add another little piece of glue on the back here and anchor this little piece down. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this ink pad. I'm going to draw it across the foil here. This is almost big enough that if you turned it sideways, you could do it all with one pass. Maybe I'll try to do that. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it around and do it one time coming back the other way, because I really like the idea of having that little darker edge. And now my score lines, or my lines of ink across there, are really nice and straight. And for this, I kind of like that look. The next thing we're going to do is, while that's still anchored down there, and you don't want to do what I just did, and that's touch it with your fingers. Because when you start using Versamark and powder, you're liable to end up with a big old fingerprint right in the middle. I think I was fast enough to get that off of there. In fact, you want to hold your your foil by the edges so that you don't get any extra images on there that you don't want. So the next thing we're going to do is not this, pardon me. The next thing we're going to do is go back to our black archival ink, and we are going to put our images on. And in this case, I use the Waterfront, I think that's what it's called. Yes, the Waterfront stamp set. And I'm using the mountain here, and I'm using the trees. And I think this one came out almost looking like an oriental painting, and I kind of like that look, so I'm going to try and duplicate that. So I've got my mountain stamp here all ready to go, and the first thing I did was come across here on the bottom and get an image stamp down. There we go. And then I've got one set above it right about there. Perfect. Then one kind of across here. And then I kind of floated one up above here a bit. Okay, not as happy with that one. Let's see if I can get close to doing that again. Okay, very good. All right, so there's my mountains kind of set in there. And the next thing is the trees. And for this design, what I did was I put just 2 of the trees on this side, and I came down a bit from the mountains and inked that up pretty good so that I got 2 fairly dark trees down here on the bottom, and that'll darken up when I put the clear embossing powder. And then for the top trees, I really only wanted the top half of the trees, and I wanted them up above these mountains here, like in the background, and that's exactly what I was looking for. So there we go. I'll take this off and bring it up so you can see what it was I did. I got, sorry for the glare there, and I'll move it around a little bit so you can see all of the parts and pieces there. Okay, so the next step is, now we're done with the ink. The next step is to dry this. And in fact, Melissa suggests that you only use the black archival ink and not the Memento to get this done. And dry this on the first setting on your heat tool. The Stampin' Up! Heat tool has 2 settings. One that is a little lower volume or lower heat, and then one that's more full blast. And so I'm going to put this on the first setting. I'm going to push this back down again here and get that to stick, and then I'm going to heat set that, and I'll be back in a flash. Okay, and you saw me testing. As soon as I could put my finger on it and come away clean that the ink was dry, then I think we're ready to go. Apparently, if you don't dry the ink, when you go to pull your Versamark pad across there to get the ice look, you end up smearing the ink. So you want to make sure that's either allowed to sit still and dry completely, or use your heat tool to sort of speed it up. Now, Melissa suggested that you not put very much pressure on this Versamark pad as you draw it across. In fact, when she did it, I wonder if that would go all the way across one time. Not quite. Okay, so she literally put it in place and drew it across, and I did start a bit off the page and then go beyond the edge of the page so that you don't end up with a start and stop mark at the top. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side, crossing over. See my piece of paper trying to move there. And just dragging that across the face of this card. It's moving, and hopefully that'll be okay. I'm going to put that down and do that side again, just to make absolutely sure as I pull my Versamark pad across. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I'm going to heat set that after I put a little bit of clear embossing powder on this. And the clear embossing powder on the Versamark stripes is what makes this look a little bit like ice. And so I'm going to put some powder on this. And it looks like I didn't get any Versamark just on the very edge there, and I can fix that. But first thing I'm going to do is heat set this piece. So again, I'll quiet the video while I run my heat tool. Okay. You know, I think I'm going to be okay without redoing that top edge. I think it's going to be just fine. So I'm going to give this a second to dry, and I'll bring it up so you can see the effect. I hope you can see that. The effect of the clear embossing powder and the Versamark drawn across there, almost like an icy look to it. It's really pretty. And I got that kind of faded look I was going for, not as faded as this one, but no, and of course no two will ever be quite the same. So let me clear a few things out of the way here, and other than that, we are at assembly. This card, once you get your piece done, is really pretty simple. Now here's our gray piece that we went over a little earlier. And so what we're going to do is attach that to the front of the card with a little bit of snail. And then our white piece for the inside. And what I'm going to do with that is, now that I'm thinking of it, I think what I'm going to do is stamp a few mountains across the bottom of this card. And this is a photopolymer. So on the other one, I wasn't as worried about getting a crisp image because I wanted that faded look. But on here, what I'm going to do is stamp a few of these mountains across the bottom of this card. Well, on the other side, because I can see I've got some ink along the edge of my stamp block here. So let me try that again. There we go. And so I think that's the decoration I'm going to put on the inside of the card. So that's it for that. And now we can go ahead and attach that to the inside of our card. And there we've got the inside of our card done. Now let's put our pieces on the front here. All right, so these two pieces get nested on top of one another. And so I'll just add some glue here, snail, to my white panel and adhere that to the black piece. Oops, got a little bit of a frayed edge there. All right, there we go. And then this piece is going to go onto here, and it goes on flat as well. Oop. Out a snail. And this piece is going to go on here. That is so pretty. And my piece of black shimmer ribbon, on this one I only put it around the white, but on this one I'm going to put it all the way around the whole panel. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue here to my ribbon and put that in place across here. And wind that around to the back of the card. Then this whole panel is raised on dimensionals. So I'm going to put this panel up on dimensionals. Okay, and then deciding where I want to put this on this panel, and I think right about there with a similar border on both sides and covering the majority of that card front. And there we go. That is the black ice technique, again invented by Melissa Kerman. And isn't that just pretty? I think it's just very unique, very different, and pretty dramatic. And so I'll put a link below, like I said, to Melissa's site so you can watch her do some of this black ice technique. And she's done it on several different kinds of, using several different stamps, and I think it's just beautiful. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And or you could join my team. You can join Stampin' Up! With $125 worth of product for $99, and during Sale-a-bration, you get an additional 2 stamp sets of your choice out of either one of the occasions or the annual catalog. And you know, some of those stamp sets are pretty pricey, so it's a real opportunity to pick up some nice freebies. And that offer is good through the end of the month. Sale-a-bration is over on March 31st. And so now's the time to take advantage of that. It's always a good idea to join Stampin' Up! Because you can save on your own products with a 20% discount to start with. And you can also, if you choose to, you can build a little business for yourself. And as your demonstrator upline, I would be there standing ready to help you achieve whatever it is you want to achieve with Stampin' Up! So subscribe and share the video and give me a thumbs up, and I will be back soon with more cards and more projects. See you soon. Bye.